The meeting hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of light-years away from Earth, deep inside the shining space station called Unity Spire, alien ambassadors from hundreds of species sat around a great circular table. Above them floated a giant holographic display, glowing with red warning lights. Ambassador Thelnax of the Zarn species leaned forward, his 6 golden eyes watching the images with disbelief. The hologram showed burning cities, collapsing towers, and oceans of smoke. Human worlds. Destroyed. For 300 years, Thelnax had served as a diplomat. He had seen border disputes, trade wars, even the fall of small empires. But nothing like this. The images kept changing. One world after another. 3 human colonies completely gone. 40 million people dead. The humans had not even sent a distress call before their communications were silenced. The Krell Empire had attacked without warning. No reason. No declaration of war. No demands. Their ships had appeared in human space and opened fire immediately. Cities were turned into ash. Orbiting stations exploded like stars. In the hologram, Thelnax could see tiny dots, escape pods, hundreds of them, trying to flee through the burning atmosphere, only to vanish as Krell fighters hunted them down. A cold silence filled the room. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Thelnax looked around the table. The ambassadors of many races sat frozen, their faces pale or darkened in horror. No one spoke. Finally, the voice of Counselor Varen broke the silence. 40 million dead, and no message from the Krell? A robotic advisor replied in a calm, lifeless tone. None. The Krell fleet entered human space, destroyed 3 planets, and retreated without contact. No explanation given. Varen's silver skin shimmered in the blue light. That makes no sense. The Krell always make demands first. They always give warning. Thelnax nodded slowly. Yes. This is not their usual way. A smaller alien, a blue-scaled envoy from the Drent Union, clicked his teeth nervously. Maybe the humans provoked them? Thelnax's eyes glowed faintly. Provoked them? With what? The humans are young, yes, but they follow the rules. They pay their trade dues. They don't start wars. The Drent envoy lowered his head. The others said nothing. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Coalition had kept peace between its members. Disputes were solved with words, not weapons. No one had dared to attack another member so directly. But now, the rules were broken. An aide rushed into the room and whispered to Thelnax. The message was short: human fleets are silent. No official response. No words. No requests for help. Just silence. Thelnax turned his gaze back to the hologram. The last image played again, a child's drawing found in the ruins, stick figures holding hands under a blue sky, with the words, New Hope Colony, written in English below it. He closed his eyes. He had seen enough death in his lifetime, but there was something different here. Something dangerous. The humans, though still new to the stars, were known for their strange strength. They had fragile bodies but unbreakable will. They laughed louder, loved deeper, and fought harder than anyone expected. And now, their children were dead. Thelnax felt a chill run through him. He knew what that meant. He whispered softly, "They will not forgive this." Across the hall, a few alien leaders began whispering. One said, "We should send peacekeepers." Another argued, "We must stay out of human matters." But Thelnax stayed silent. He remembered the stories, old stories humans told when they first joined the coalition. Stories of their world wars, of cities turned to fire, of entire nations rebuilt from ash. Humans, he thought, were creatures who became strongest when they were hurt. The council continued to argue, but Thelnax's attention shifted to a new message flashing on his datapad. A human signal had been detected from Earth's orbit. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a message for peace. It was a shutdown order. Every human fleet, every ship, every communication relay, offline. Thelnax's heart pounded in his chest. They are cutting contact with the galaxy, he said quietly. Varen looked at him in alarm. Cutting contact? Why? Thelnax didn't answer. He already knew the truth, though he didn't want to speak it aloud. Humanity wasn't surrendering. They were preparing. Far away, beyond the bright lights of the Council Station, deep inside Earth's night side, a new kind of fire was rising. Inside secret shipyards buried under oceans and mountains, humans were building something. Something vast. Engineers worked without sleep. Soldiers trained in silence. Artificial intelligences whispered calculations that could melt stars. No one outside Earth knew what was happening. But satellites caught glimpses. Massive shapes moving beneath storm clouds, reactors glowing in the dark, shadows the size of cities. In the cold black of space, a single message flickered from an unknown source. It was brief. They wanted war. Then, nothing. Thelnax felt a strange fear spreading through the council hall. He stood up slowly, his long hands trembling. We must warn the others, he said. Varen frowned. Warn them of what? Thelnax's golden eyes turned toward the hologram one last time, where flames still burned on the ruined human worlds. He whispered, warn them that the humans will answer. Outside the station window, distant stars shimmered like sparks in the dark. Somewhere among them, humanity was waking up, and when they rose, the galaxy would never be the same again. The stars above Earth looked calm, but the planet below was no longer at peace. After the Krell attack, every human broadcast went silent. Civilian channels were cut, military signals went dark, and every spaceport closed its gates. From orbit, Earth looked quiet, but deep inside, something was moving. Far beneath the surface, under layers of steel and rock, a hidden world came alive. They called it the Black Forge. It was not marked on any map. Even most humans didn't know it existed. It had been built in secret long ago, during the first fear of alien invasion, a project meant for defense, but now it would become something else. The entrance was guarded by fleets of drones. Massive hangars stretched for kilometers, glowing with blue light. Inside, tens of thousands of engineers, soldiers, and scientists worked side by side. Every hand was busy, every mind focused on one goal, to create the greatest weapon humanity had ever built. No one spoke about revenge. They didn't need to. The silence carried that message. The commander of the forge, Admiral Rhea Salas, stood on a high platform watching the endless construction lines below. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp and cold. She had lost her brother on the colony of New Hope, one of the worlds the Krell had destroyed. Now, she commanded humanity's answer. Her second-in-command, Captain Elias Trent, walked up beside her. Progress report, Admiral, he said, handing her a data pad. She scanned it quickly. Reactor core completed. Armor plating at 60%. Main cannon installation begins tomorrow. Trent hesitated. Do we tell the council what we're doing? Rhea turned to him slowly. The council watched 40 million die and did nothing. No. This is our war. Trent nodded silently. Around them, sparks flew as machines welded massive plates together. The air vibrated with the hum of power. Giant robotic arms lifted sections of armor the size of buildings into place. In the center of it all, rising from a pit deeper than mountains, stood the frame of the ship, Project Hammer of Terra. No one called it a ship anymore. It was too big for that. It was a fortress in space, a moving world of steel and fire. Its main weapon, a fusion core cannon, could tear a planet apart. Its shields could hold against a supernova's heat. Every engine, every gun, every system had one purpose: to destroy. Above the forge, Earth's sky darkened with storm clouds. Lightning flashed, reflecting off the growing structure hidden below. To the world outside, these storms were natural. But inside, they were caused by the enormous energy draw of the construction, power lines feeding the hungry heart of the forge. In the control room, Rhea watched a live feed of the project's progress. Engineers shouted updates. Energy readings climbed. The numbers were dangerous, but no one slowed down. Trent looked uneasy. We're pushing limits no one's ever tested. Ria's voice was steady. Limits mean nothing now. For months, humanity had been silent. Other species wondered what the humans were planning. Some believed they were rebuilding colonies. Others thought they were broken, hiding in grief. A few whispered that humans were making a monster, a weapon no one could control. They were all right. In space, human scout ships still drifted quietly near the borders. They did not fight. They only watched, collecting data, mapping Krell movements, recording frequencies. Every bit of information returned to the forge, feeding the creation below. One night, Ria stood alone at the observation deck. The forge lights flickered in the distance, painting the steel walls in gold. She spoke softly into her personal log. "They think we are afraid," she said. "They think humans will beg. They do not understand. We do not beg. We rebuild." Her voice was low, almost calm. "And when we are ready, they will see our answer." Below her, the main reactor core came online for the first time. The sound shook the earth. The floor vibrated. Walls glowed red from heat. Massive turbines screamed as they spun up, sending power into the unfinished body of the Hammer of Terra. For a moment, the lights across the forge flickered, then everything went bright. The monitors showed stable energy output. The impossible was real. The forge had given birth to fire. Across the room, workers cheered. But Ria did not smile. She simply said, "Continue." Outside, hidden satellites detected strange radiation bursts coming from Earth's dark side. Coalition scanners tried to read them but failed. The data was encrypted with human codes no one could break. To the rest of the galaxy, it looked like noise. To humanity, it was a heartbeat, the first pulse of their vengeance. Weeks passed. The ship grew larger. Its name was whispered only once a day, during the shift change, when Ria would stand before her people and say the same words. "Remember the colonies. Remember the children. Remember the fire." Every worker would raise a hand in silence. Then, they would return to their stations. When the last armor plate was installed, the forge doors began to open. The roof of the underground facility split apart like the jaws of a beast. Smoke and light poured into the night sky. For the first time, the Hammer of Terra rose from the shadows. It broke through the clouds, its engines glowing like small suns. The air shook as it climbed higher and higher, until the entire sky burned orange. From orbit, the ship looked like a mountain wrapped in flame. The first human battleship born not for defense, but for judgment. Admiral Ria Salas watched from her command deck, eyes fixed on the stars. "The Krell wanted war," she said quietly. "Now they will have it." The Krell Empire was celebrating. In the golden halls of the Imperial Palace on Krellin Prime, banners of victory hung from the ceiling. Giant crystal chandeliers glowed red with firelight as music thundered through the air. Thousands of Krell soldiers and nobles filled the hall, their scales glittering under the light, their voices loud and proud. They had done what no one else had dared to do. They had struck the humans. And they had won. The Emperor of the Krell sat upon his throne, a massive creature covered in deep red scales and wearing golden armor carved with symbols of conquest. His eyes, sharp and yellow, scanned the room with satisfaction. Before him stood his generals, warriors who had led the attack on the human colonies. Their claws clicked proudly against their armor as they bowed. "Speak," the Emperor commanded. His voice was like thunder rolling across metal. General Rorvac, the leader of the invasion fleet, stepped forward. His fangs glistened as he smiled. "3 human worlds burned, my Emperor." The weaklings ran. They screamed. Their ships fell apart under our guns. They never fought back. The crowd of Krell nobles roared with laughter. Cups were raised. The sound of claws tapping on metal tables filled the hall. Rorvac continued, pride swelling in his chest. The humans were unprepared. They begged for mercy. Their colonies are dust now. We left their corpses to freeze in the void. The Emperor nodded slowly, his smile thin and cruel. And what of their fleets? Their allies? Rorvac bowed. Their allies will not act. The Council fears war. The humans are alone. They are finished. The Emperor leaned back, amused. Then the galaxy has learned. The Krell are supreme once again. The crowd cheered. The sound was deafening. But deep beneath the cheers, one Krell scientist stood silent, a female officer named Tarek. She had been analyzing the sensor data from the human systems after the attack. Her scales shimmered a pale blue, showing her unease. She approached the Emperor cautiously. "My Emperor, if I may speak." The hall quieted slightly. The Emperor tilted his head, curious. "You may." Tarek lowered her eyes in respect. "During our retreat, our sensors detected something unusual." "Unusual?" the Emperor repeated. His tone carried warning. "Yes, my lord," she said quickly. "Strange energy readings near Earth. Massive energy spikes under their surface. At first, we believed it was damage from our attack, but it continued to rise, even days after." General Rorvac hissed impatiently. "The humans are scavenging, cleaning their mess. Do not waste the Emperor's time." But Tarek didn't back down. "With respect, General, these readings are too strong for scavenging. Whatever they are building, it's drawing power equal to several suns." The Emperor's yellow eyes narrowed slightly. "Several suns." "Yes, my lord," she said softly. "If my calculations are correct, it could power an entire fleet, or one very large weapon." The hall went silent for a moment. Then laughter erupted again. Rorvac slammed his claw against his chest. "Let them build. What can those soft creatures make that could stand against us? Their ships crumble under our plasma. Their worlds burn like paper." The Emperor watched his general for a moment before nodding slowly. "Perhaps you are right, Rorvac. But send more scouts. I want to know if the humans plan anything foolish." Tarek bowed. "At once, my Emperor." The celebration resumed, louder than before. Music returned, cups clinked, and the Krell danced in the light of their own pride. Outside, on the dark edge of the Krell home system, a small scout ship drifted silently through space. Its sensors searched for any sign of human movement. The crew was relaxed, confident in their empire's power. One of the officers looked up from his console. "Strange, sir. The stars ahead, something's blocking our scans." The captain frowned. "A moon? A station?" The officer shook his head. "No, sir. It's moving." Before the captain could reply, the stars vanished behind something enormous. A shadow fell over their ship, swallowing it completely. The sensors screamed with overload warnings. Then, the shadow turned, and for a split second, they saw it. A black hull. No markings. No signal. A massive shape cutting through the void like a silent predator. It was not Krell. It was not Council. It was something else. Then, the transmission ended. Back on Krellin Prime, the scout's last image reached the Imperial Command Center. Officers gathered around the screen. The image was dark, blurry, but clear enough to show one thing: an enormous ship, large enough to blot out the stars. No one spoke for several seconds. Then a low whisper spread through the room. "Human." The data was brought to the Emperor's chamber. Rorvac laughed when he saw it. "A trick. The humans are trying to frighten us." But Tarek's voice trembled. "No trick, my lord. That ship was not there before. It moved faster than anything we've seen." The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed again. "Send more scouts. I want proof." As the new fleet of scouts prepared to launch, the Emperor looked out from his palace window toward the stars. His reflection glowed in the glass, proud, certain, unstoppable. He did not know that far away, beyond his sight, the hammer of Terra was awakening. Its engines burned quietly, its hull black as night, its cannons ready. The humans had finished their silence. Soon, the galaxy would hear their voice, in fire. Space was quiet over Draxus Prime, the most powerful military world of the Krell Empire. It was a planet of fire and steel, endless weapon factories, shipyards, and training fields. Thousands of warships floated in orbit, guarding the world that had built half the Krell fleet. On that morning, the Krell commanders believed they were safe. The sun rose over Draxus in a red glow, painting the metal cities in gold. Soldiers marched, officers shouted orders, and the endless noise of machines filled the air. High above, the planetary defense ships drifted like silver sharks. Their sensors scanned for danger, and found nothing. Then, for 1 second, every signal went silent. Every radar, every satellite, every scanner, blank. The Krell control center erupted with noise. Sensor failure. Reboot systems. Communications offline. Something's blocking the signal. General Torvak, commander of planetary defense, slammed his claws on the console. Find the source. Now. But before anyone could reply, a shadow fell across the command window. The sun vanished. Every Krell looked up. The sky had turned black. At first, they thought it was an eclipse. Then, the stars themselves disappeared, one by one, behind something vast and dark. An officer whispered, trembling, That's not a ship." But it was. The Hammer of Terra had arrived. It was silent, enormous, and completely black, a floating fortress stretching kilometers across. Its hull glowed faintly red from heat, its engines whispering like thunder. The Krell fleet scattered in panic. Ships turned, weapons powered up, alarms screamed through the cities below. The first Krell admiral shouted, "All batteries open fire." Thousands of plasma cannons lit the sky. Streams of green energy flew upward, hitting the massive black shape. The shots exploded on impact, but nothing happened. The ship did not move. It did not fall. It simply hovered, watching. Inside the Hammer, Admiral Rhea Salas stood on the command deck. Her face was calm. Around her, the bridge crew waited for her signal. "Targets confirmed," said Captain Trent. "All systems ready." Rhea looked out the window. Below her, Draxus Prime burned with city lights, just as New Hope once had before it was destroyed. She whispered, "For them. Fire." The main cannon of the Hammer of Terra opened, a long, glowing scar across its front hull. The energy charge built in silence for 3 seconds. Then, a beam of white light tore through space. It hit the planet's surface with the power of a sun. The world shook. A flash of light brighter than day covered the entire hemisphere. Oceans boiled. Mountains melted. Cities turned to glass. In the control center on Draxus, General Torvak had only a moment to look up before everything around him turned to fire. From orbit, the Krell fleet broke apart. Some ships tried to run. Others turned to fight again, but the Hammer's secondary guns moved like predators. Beams of red light sliced through space, cutting ships in half. No escape, no mercy. Within minutes, the sky above Draxus was filled with debris and burning wreckage. The planet below cracked open, glowing with rivers of lava. On the Hammer's bridge, silence returned. The crew watched the destruction without cheering. There was no joy, only grim purpose. Captain Trent exhaled slowly. Draxus Prime, gone. Rhea Salas stood motionless. "Transmit this signal," she said. Her communications officer nodded. "Message ready, Admiral." "Send." Across the stars, the transmission echoed, simple, cold, human. "For the dead of New Hope. For the children you burned. This is our answer. We are humanity. We do not forget." The message reached the Galactic Council first. The ambassadors listened in horror. Thelnax, sitting among them, felt his hands shake as he heard the human voice. Around him, other species whispered, afraid. One ambassador gasped, "They destroyed an entire world." Thelnax closed his eyes. "No," he said quietly. "They ended a war. But the war was not over. It was just beginning." On Krellin Prime, the Emperor watched the reports from Draxus. The holograms showed his greatest fortress falling apart, his fleets burning. His claws dug into the arm of his throne, cracking the gold beneath. "Impossible," he hissed. "No single ship has that power." His advisors said nothing. One trembled as he spoke. "Our sensors confirmed the signature. It's human, my Emperor." The Emperor's eyes blazed with fury. "Then find them. Find that ship and bring me its captain's head." He did not know that the hammer had already left Draxus. Its engines flared once, and it vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only silence and a dying world. On the command deck, Rhea watched the fading light of the planet through the observation window. Her reflection stared back at her, tired, haunted, but unbroken. Trent stepped beside her. "Admiral." "What now?" She answered softly, "Now we remind the galaxy why they should never wake a sleeping human." The hammer of Terra drifted into the void, engines glowing faintly as it disappeared into the dark between stars. Behind it, Draxus Prime burned like a broken sun, the first of many. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so loud. Voices from hundreds of alien worlds filled the great circular hall. Holograms of ambassadors flickered above their seats, shouting over one another in panic and anger. The air was thick with confusion. The humans destroyed a planet. An entire world, gone. This is madness. They are out of control. The center of the room glowed with the holographic image of Draxus Prime, or what was left of it. The once bright planet was now a ball of molten fire, its atmosphere ripped away, its surface glowing like liquid metal. Ambassador Thelnax of the Zarn sat silently in his seat, 6 golden eyes staring at the image. Around him, chaos ruled. A tall, silver-skinned delegate from the Sereth Dominion shouted, "The humans must be stopped. They have become worse than the Krell." Another, a scaled diplomat from the Drenk Alliance, hissed back, "And how will you stop them?" "Send fleets." They destroyed Draxus in minutes. The arguments grew louder, the words more desperate. Thelnax stood up slowly. His voice, calm and deep, cut through the noise. "Silence." The room hesitated. Even the angry delegates turned toward him. Thelnax looked around the chamber. "You all speak of fear," he said. "And you are right to fear. But not because humans destroyed a world, you should fear because they warned us this would happen." Some of the counselors frowned. "Warned us?" Thelnax nodded. 10 years ago, when the humans joined this council, I sat with their ambassador. He told me, "We are peaceful when we are respected. But if anyone kills our people, we will burn the sky itself to stop them." I thought it was human emotion. Now, I understand. The room fell quiet. From the corner, Counselor Varen leaned forward. "Thelnax, you believe this was justice?" Thelnax turned his eyes toward the hologram of Draxus, its surface still boiling. "No. I believe this was inevitable." A whisper spread through the crowd. Some nodded in grim understanding, others shook their heads in disbelief. Varen spoke again, voice rising. "If we allow this, they will become a threat to every world. What happens when humanity decides someone else has wronged them?" Thelnax answered softly, "Then we remember what they are capable of." On the large screen beside the hologram, a new transmission began to play. It was the message sent by the humans after the strike. The voice was calm, almost emotionless. "For the dead of New Hope. For the children you burned. We are humanity. We do not forget." The council chamber was silent again. Even Varen, who had been shouting moments before, had no words. Thelnax felt a chill run through him. It was not the voice of madness or rage, it was the voice of something colder, deeper, unstoppable. The humans were no longer pleading for peace. They were delivering judgment. The meeting dragged on for hours. Proposals were made, sanctions, blockades, even a joint strike to stop the human warship. But every plan fell apart quickly. The facts were simple. The Hammer of Terra had destroyed one of the most heavily defended worlds in the galaxy, alone. No fleet could match it. No weapon could stop it. At last, the council speaker, an ancient being whose voice carried through the chamber like an echo, said quietly, "We cannot stop them. We must reason with them." Varen looked shocked. Reason? With murderers? The speaker's eyes glowed faintly. They are not murderers. They are humans. They fight, as they always have, until the war is finished. Thelnax nodded slowly. If you speak to them, choose your words carefully. Humanity does not speak twice. After the meeting ended, Thelnax walked alone down the long corridors of Unity Spire. The windows around him showed the stars, bright and distant, peaceful and cold. He paused before one of them and looked down at the small blue hologram of Earth spinning in his hand. The planet looked calm, just like always. Oceans shimmered, clouds drifted, lights flickered on the dark side. But he knew what lay beneath that surface, the Black Forge still active, building more than the galaxy could imagine. He whispered to himself. They were silent for months. They hid their anger under smiles. And now, he looked up at the stars. Now they have no reason to stop. Behind him, footsteps echoed. It was Varen again, pale and tense. "Thelnax," Varen said. "The Krell Emperor has sent a message. He wants peace negotiations. He's asking for the Council's help." Thelnax turned slowly. "Peace negotiations?" Varen nodded. "Yes. He says the humans have destroyed 2 more outposts already. He's begging for protection." Thelnax's eyes glowed faintly gold. "Begging? The Krell Emperor?" Varen looked down. "Yes. He is afraid." For a long moment, Thelnax said nothing. Then, softly, he replied, "It's too late for fear." He looked back at the stars once more. Somewhere out there, the Hammer of Terra was still moving, still hunting. He could almost feel it, a storm in the dark, gathering strength. Thelnax finally whispered, "You do not stop humans. You survive them." Outside the window, a distant star flickered red, the light of another Krell system burning. The Krell Emperor stood before the war map, his long claws digging into the polished stone table. Around him, dozens of generals waited in silence. The room was filled with the low hum of battle screens showing hundreds of ships gathering at the edge of the Krell Empire. The Emperor's voice was cold and sharp. "The humans destroyed Draxus. They burned our colonies. But now, we end this." His generals nodded. Thousands of warships, the might of the Krell Empire, were already in position. Massive carriers, ion destroyers, stealth cruisers, all hidden behind the twin moons of Valgar Prime. Their plan was simple: wait for the human warship, the Hammer of Terra, to arrive and trap it between their fleets. "It is just one ship," growled General Korvac. "One ship cannot face an empire." The Emperor looked at him with his deep red eyes. "You underestimate them, General. That one ship destroyed worlds. We will crush it, but do not take it lightly." The command hall was silent again. Every Krell officer could feel the tension. The humans had not replied to any messages, not even to surrender demands. They were like a ghost fleet, silent, unseen, moving through the void without warning. The Emperor turned to his strategist. "Report." The holographic display changed. A glowing line traced the human ship's route, through Krell border systems, across destroyed colonies, and now heading straight toward Valgar Prime. "They are coming," said the strategist quietly. The Emperor smiled for the first time in weeks. "Good. Let them come." Out in the dark space beyond the twin moons, the Hammer of Terra moved like a silent shadow. It was not rushing. It was not running. It was hunting. Inside the ship, Captain Adrian Holt stood on the bridge, his face calm, his eyes fixed on the main display. Before him floated the massive map of Krell space. He could see hundreds of ships hiding behind the moons, waiting for him. He smiled slightly. They think they're hunting us. Beside him, Commander Reyes checked her console. Their fleet is huge, sir. Over 3,000 ships. If we go straight in, we'll be surrounded. Holt nodded. Yes. That's what they want. He turned toward the crew. Signal the fleet. Reyes blinked. Fleet, sir? We're alone. Holt's calm voice carried through the bridge. Not anymore. Outside, space shimmered. One by one, human ships appeared from stealth. Massive dreadnoughts, carriers, and destroyers. Each one had been hiding in subspace, cloaked and silent. Hundreds of red human symbols filled the map. Reyes stared in shock. By the stars. We had a whole fleet here? Holt smiled faintly. The galaxy thinks we only have one ship. That's what we wanted them to think. The humans had planned everything. The destruction of Draxus, the silence, the rage. All of it had been part of a larger plan to draw the Krell into a trap. On Valgar Prime, alarms suddenly blared. Human ships detected. Hundreds of them. The Emperor turned sharply. What? That's impossible. There was only one. Not anymore, my lord. They are everywhere. The holographic map turned red as human ships surrounded the entire Krell formation. They came from behind the moons, from the gas fields, from hyperspace tunnels. The trap the Krell had set had been turned against them. The Emperor roared in anger. All ships, open fire. Destroy them. The stars erupted. Thousands of beams of light crossed space as both sides unleashed their fury. Human plasma cannons cut through Krell destroyers like fire through paper. The Hammer of Terra led the assault, its massive railgun firing shots that split battleships in half. The Krell fleet tried to fight back, but the humans were faster. Their ships moved like hunters, silent and precise. Every Krell command signal was jammed, every strategy countered. General Korvac shouted, "We are losing formation." The Emperor slammed his clawed hand on the table. "No retreat. We are the Krell Empire." But his words were useless. The battle was already lost. Within 30 minutes, half the Krell fleet was destroyed. Their command center was burning. The humans had turned the trap into a slaughter. In the middle of the chaos, the Hammer of Terra locked onto the Emperor's flagship. Captain Holt stood straight. "Target the command ship. No mercy." Reyes hesitated. "Sir, there are escape pods launching." Holt's voice was calm. "We gave them mercy once. They answered with fire." The Hammer's railgun charged, glowing like a small sun. A single shot fired. The Emperor's flagship exploded, torn apart in a flash of blue light. The blast wave spread across the sky, lighting the moons of Valgar like burning suns. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but drifting metal. Silence fell across space. The Hammer of Terra floated through the wreckage. Flames and debris drifted past its hull. Reyes whispered, "It's over." Holt looked at the remains of the Krell fleet. "No," he said quietly. "It's only the beginning." He turned to the communication officer. "Send the message to the Galactic Council." The officer nodded. "To all who can hear this. The Krell Empire is finished. Humanity does not seek war. But we do not forgive murder. Remember Draxus. Remember New Hope. Peace will come, our way." Far away, in the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Thelnax watched the broadcast in silence. Around him, others stared in horror and awe. Thelnax whispered, "They walked into a trap, thinking humans were prey." He looked up at the stars on the screen. But humanity, they were the hunters all along. The war was over. But the galaxy was silent. For the first time in thousands of years, the mighty Krell Empire was gone. Its worlds were ash and dust, its fleets nothing but drifting metal across cold space. The proud empire that had once ruled 100 systems no longer existed. And it had taken only 7 human ships to end it. In the ruins of Valgar Prime, the air was still burning. The ground glowed red like a dying sun, and the smoke of 1 billion fires covered the sky. From orbit, the planet looked like a scar, a reminder of what happened when humanity went to war. Ambassador Thelnax stood aboard a coalition observation vessel, staring down at the destroyed world. His 6 eyes blinked slowly. The sight made even him, a diplomat who had seen centuries of conflict, shiver. He whispered, "They did it. They actually did it." Beside him, Counselor Varen was pale and shaking. "They have become monsters," he said softly. "No, they were always monsters. We just didn't see it." Thelnax shook his head. "No, Varen. Monsters kill for pleasure. Humans kill for purpose. They warned us. We didn't listen." He looked again at the burning world below. "This is their message. Never again." Across the galaxy, every species watched the human broadcast. The message was simple and cold. To all civilizations of the Galactic Coalition, the Krell Empire has been neutralized. Humanity will not seek conquest. But if our worlds are attacked again, we will respond. We will end wars before they begin. There were no threats, no demands, just a statement. It was enough to terrify half the galaxy. The council met again 2 days later. The chamber was full, but no one spoke loudly. Thelnax could feel the weight of silence pressing on everyone. Finally, the speaker rose. "The Krell are gone. But a question remains, what do we do with the humans?" Varen stood quickly. "They are a danger to all of us. They have weapons beyond understanding. They must be controlled." Another ambassador hissed, "Controlled? You saw what they did to the Krell. Who will control them?" Thelnax spoke next. "They are not asking to rule. They are only asking to be left alone. Maybe we should listen." Varen glared. "You defend them even now? After this destruction?" Thelnax met his gaze. "Yes. Because I know what would happen if we didn't." The hall went silent again. Everyone knew he was right. On the far side of the Milky Way, on a quiet human world named New Hope, people stood together in the city square. A huge memorial rose in the center, a black stone tower engraved with millions of names. Captain Adrian Holt stood before it, his uniform dark with ash and soot. The air smelled of rain and burned metal. Children placed flowers at the base of the tower. Old veterans saluted. No one spoke. Commander Reyes stepped beside him. "They're saying the Krell are gone. Every last ship." Holt nodded slowly. "Then it's over." Reyes looked at him. "Is it?" Holt didn't answer right away. He looked up at the sky, at the bright stars beyond the clouds. "No. It's never over. Peace doesn't last unless someone guards it." Reyes gave a small, sad smile. "Then we guard it." Holt looked down at the memorial again. "For them," he said softly. Back in the Galactic Council, the debate continued. Some wanted to isolate humanity, others wanted to ally with them. But in the end, fear decided everything. The Council passed a new law: no fleet shall ever enter human space without permission. No weapon shall be raised against a human world. Thelnax listened quietly as the law was passed. He knew it wasn't just law, it was survival. When the meeting ended, he stood alone, looking at the stars outside the great window. "The humans will rebuild," he whispered. "They always do." Varen's voice came from behind him. "You think they'll forgive us?" Thelnax turned his head slightly. "Forgive? No. But they might protect us, if we're lucky." Varen frowned. "Protect us? From what?" Thelnax looked into the dark beyond the stars. "From whatever comes next. Because when the next monsters rise, the galaxy will call for humans again." Far away, on the edge of known space, the hammer of Terra drifted silently. Its hull still bore the scars of battle, but its engines burned bright. The stars reflected off its black surface like fire in the night. Inside, the crew was quiet. Some rested, Others cleaned their weapons, others stared out the viewports in silence. Captain Holt stood at the command deck, watching the horizon. "Any signals?" he asked. The officer shook her head. "None, sir. It's quiet." Holt nodded slowly. "Good. Let it stay that way." He turned to Reyes. "Set course for Seoul." "Aye, sir." "Going home." The ship turned, its engines glowing brighter. As it moved through the darkness, its massive shadow passed over the stars, like a silent warning written across the sky. The galaxy watched, holding its breath. And in that silence, one truth became clear. Humanity had changed everything. 50 years passed. The galaxy changed. The Krell Empire was gone, its systems silent and lifeless. New trade routes crossed the stars. The Galactic Council rebuilt itself, stronger but quieter, always careful never to anger one species, humanity. The name Hammer of Terra had become legend. Children whispered it like a ghost story. Soldiers spoke it with respect. Even pirates stayed clear of human space. They said the ship still roamed the edge of the galaxy, guarding the peace it had created. They said Captain Holt never died. They said the stars themselves bowed when the hammer passed. No one really knew if it was true. Ambassador Thelnax was old now, his golden eyes dim with age. He sat in his quiet office on Zarn Prime, watching the endless stars through the window. The galaxy looked peaceful again, but he knew that peace was fragile, like thin glass waiting to break. A soft tone broke his thoughts. "Ambassador," said his assistant, "a message from the outer rim." Thelnax frowned. "From whom?" "The patrol station on Vos Delta. They found something." He turned toward the holoscreen. The image flickered to life, showing a burned planet drifting in the dark. The officer on the screen looked shaken. "Sir, this system was dead for centuries. But now, we've detected wreckage, new wreckage. Human design." Thelnax leaned forward. "Human? Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. It's the Hammer of Terra." Thelnax froze. His heart skipped a beat. "That's impossible. The ship vanished decades ago." The officer nodded nervously. "We thought so too, sir. But the hull markings match perfectly. There's more, the black box was still active. It's transmitting a message." Moments later, the message began to play. The voice was old but calm. Familiar. "This is Captain Adrian Holt of the Hammer of Terra. If you are hearing this, humanity has fallen silent. But know this, we did not die. We waited." Static filled the air for a moment before the voice continued. "Something came from beyond the galactic rim. Not Krell. Not anything we've known. They do not speak. They do not bargain. They consume." Thelnax's 6 eyes widened. The message was breaking up, but the tone of Holt's voice was steady, cold, and certain. "They will come for you all. Remember what we did to the Krell. Remember what we are capable of. When the time comes, light the forge." The recording ended. Silence filled the room. Thelnax sat frozen for a long time. Then he whispered, "Light the forge?" His assistant spoke softly. "What does that mean?" Thelnax stared out the window at the stars. "It means," he said slowly, "that the humans planned for this. They knew something like this could happen. On Earth, far away, deep under the frozen surface of Antarctica, an ancient door hummed with power for the first time in 50 years. Massive machines began to move under the ice. The forge, the secret birthplace of the Hammer of Terra, was waking up. A single red light blinked on a console. Then another. Then hundreds. Deep inside, a voice spoke through the empty halls. It was an AI, the last guardian of the human warfleet. "Signal received. Directive, reactivate defense protocols. Project Iron Dawn, online." The ground shook as hidden silos opened and dark shapes began to rise toward the sky. Old warships. Drones. Defense satellites. Humanity's silent army, asleep for half a century, was waking once more. Back on Zarn Prime, Thelnax gathered the council. The chamber was full again, just like it had been all those years ago during the Krell War. But this time, the fear was different. He stood before them and said, "The humans left us peace. Now they leave us a warning. Something is coming from the dark." Varen's successor, a young diplomat, laughed nervously. "Ambassador, surely it's only debris, an old recording." Thelnax looked at her sharply. "No. You didn't hear his voice. Captain Holt doesn't lie." The hall fell silent. Thelnax took a deep breath. "We must find them. We must find humanity." One of the delegates whispered, "If they are still alive." Thelnax looked at the stars. "Oh, they're alive. Maybe not as we remember, but they're out there. Watching. Waiting." Out on the edge of known space, near a dying red star, a shadow moved. It was not alien. It was human. The hammer of Terra drifted silently, its hull blackened, its engines cold, but inside, a faint blue light pulsed in the command room. The AI core glowed softly, running its ancient code. On the cracked control panel, a small message blinked. "Threat detected, unknown origin. Activating human defense protocol. Awaiting orders." And then, from deep within the ship, a new voice spoke, calm and human. "This is Commander Era Holt, descendant of Captain Adrian Holt. The galaxy forgot us. But we never forgot them." The hammer's engines came alive, burning brighter than the stars around it. As it turned toward the dark beyond the galactic rim, 1,000 hidden ships began to light up one by one, their signals echoing across space. The humans were back. And this time, they weren't defending just Earth. They were defending everyone. Thelnax looked up from his window as a faint light streaked across the night sky, a light heading toward the unknown. He smiled softly, his old voice full of awe. "They're still watching us." And somewhere out in the cold, endless dark, a voice whispered through the void. "For humanity. For peace. For all." The stars burned brighter. The legend lived on. The hammer of Terra had returned.